Our ladies come up. They've shared some neat things to share with us, and we're excited to hear from them. So we will welcome first Betty to come up. Let's welcome Betty.
It'll work. It's on. Well, I don't know if I can top that. When Nancy asked me to share traditions of my life, my first thought was changes. So many changes I've seen in my many years. Amazing changes in technology, medicine, many areas. But people... Sorry, we can't hear you.
It's still on.
Okay?
Yeah.
But people and traditions change too. Almost every year, one or more members come into the family with marriage or divorce or birth, and those are happy changes. Is this one? Should I start over? I'll start again. When Nancy asked me to share traditions of my life, my first thoughts were changes. So many changes in all my many years. Amazing changes in technology, transportation, medicine, many other areas. And people and traditions change too. Almost every year, one or more members come into the family. Marriages and births are happy events. And once in a while we lose a member. That's a sad event. But when we speak of traditions, they can last a lifetime or more. I'd like to tell you about my favorite traditions, but a little background first. I grew up in a farming community where most of the people were Danish Lutherans. Stoic, serious, hard-working people. When I say stoic, I mean stoic. Don't laugh too much, and certainly don't cry. But life was good. Many wonderful memories. My Danish grandmother was a treasure. She was bilingual before that became a common word. If she didn't want me to know what she was saying, she spoke Danish. But could she cook and bake? Her kitchen always smelled of good things to eat. One of our favorite dishes was hot milk and rolls. And it's still one of our family traditions. I'm not sure if this was a real Danish recipe or if it was something that Grandma made up to make use of dry rolls. But to me, it was still delicious. First, she made caramel rolls, sticky buns, with sweet, gooey bottoms. Lots of brown sugar, cinnamon, raisins. Carbs and calories don't count at Christmas, right? Then on Christmas morning, or any other time, she would heat milk, add a bit of butter, a dash of salt and pepper, and then pour it over those sticky buns. That was wonderful. It was one of the few grandma things that I still make. And I'm so pleased that some family members have started making their own hot milk and rolls. Most of the family enjoy this strange meal. One sister-in-law, however, wasn't so sure. She decided it was a way to spoil perfectly good caramel rolls. But through the years, we've enjoyed hot milk and rolls. I still make it every year and hope that great-grandchildren will enjoy this tradition. Another important tradition is the reading of the second chapter of Luke from the Bible. Sometimes we read it by ourselves. Sometimes a grandchild reads it aloud to the family. Those wonderful familiar words, "In those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus." That beautiful story tells the real story of Christmas. If Luke 2 had never happened, there would not be a Christmas. I pray that we all remember the true story of Christmas. May you all have a wonderful Christmas and many happy traditions.
Thank you so much. Next, we will have Jane come up and share with us. Come on up. Let's welcome Jane.
When I was first asked to do this, I thought, we don't really have many traditions, we just do Christmas how it is. And then I realized that actually, each of those little tiny things that seem meaningless are the traditions, and that's what has made up Christmas. Whether it's serving Brussels sprouts that nobody's going to eat, or or waking up in the morning with the bulging stockings, or whatever it is, it's all, every little detail is one of those traditions. But I just picked out a couple that maybe some of you aren't so familiar with because they're sort of more English things. The first one, which isn't really a tradition in a lot of ways, but it's Boxing Day. And I wish we could have brought that along with us from England, because basically in England and most of Europe, from Christmas Eve until New Year's Day, everything's closed, everything's done. And we don't have Thanksgiving over there. So Christmas is like Thanksgiving on steroids. It's a week of Thanksgiving, and you see everybody, and you eat so much, and you have so much fun. And Boxing Day is the day after Christmas. The history of it, there are two stories, and I'm not sure which is correct. But one was that in days gone by, the day after Christmas was the one day of the year when the servants had the day off, because they'd done all the work for Christmas, and they were sent home to their families with a box of leftovers, a box of treats. The other one is that all year in the churches, they had what they called the alms boxes, ALMS boxes, which people would donate coins over the course of the year. And on the day after Christmas, those boxes were opened and the money donated to the poor in the villages. So that's the history of Boxing Day. But what it means to us is you get to continue. You get to continue having fun. You don't have to get up and go back to work like people do here. So typically for us, Boxing Day was, we would go to the beach. And there's a long sort of boardwalk, I suppose, all along the beach. And everybody would be down there with their new bicycles and their new, doll strollers and roller skates and whatever it was that people had for Christmas. You'd see them all tripping over and enjoying their new things. And then you'd see all the fathers carrying the bicycles back to the parking lot. So we used to do that every year. But you just get a week of visiting friends, visiting relatives. So that's one tradition I would have liked to have brought with us, but we couldn't. The other tradition that we did bring with us is Christmas crackers, which you can get over here now, which is good. When we first came over, you couldn't find them. Now you can. They're ridiculously expensive Christmas crackers are trashy. Here they're expensive. In England, you find them in the dollar store. But everybody has Christmas crackers. Each person has one at their place setting for Christmas. The royal family have Christmas crackers. And can I ask you to help show? We just pull. Ready? Yep. So there's a snack. And there's a little gift inside. This is some marbles. Sometimes you get a plastic ring or something trashy. A little plastic ring toss game. But it's not about the gifts inside. That's it's about tradition. And you also get the crown. So then for the rest of the meal, everybody's wearing these. And the kids have them down over their eyes because they're much too big. And I've heard, I don't know if this is true because I've never had Christmas with the Queen, but I've heard that everybody in the royal family wears their crowns except for the Queen. I guess she's used to something a bit classier. But you also get, in your Christmas cracker, a cheesy joke. And the kids love reading these cheesy jokes out. Why did the Scarecrow win so many awards? Because he was outstanding in his field. Why did the bacon laugh? Because the egg cracked a yolk. And so the cheesier the better. Christmas cracker jokes are legendary. And if they have a Christmas theme, all the better. So, for instance, what do you call a blind Rudolph? No idea. What do you call Rudolph with his nose full of snow? Anything you like, because he can't hear you. Those are classic Christmas jokes. So anyway, Betty set it up so nicely, and then I came on to bring things down.
I love it. So, some of you may know, but I grew up in Scotland for quite a time, and we also had Christmas crackers. So that's a good memory for me. Thanks, Jane. I'll have to get some for this year. We will welcome Megan next. Megan, come on up. To find your way through the maze. You didn't know about this part of the challenge, right?
Thank you. All right. Well, hello, everybody. When I was asked to speak, I was asked because Beth had actually heard about my Christmas tradition. So one tradition that my family does that I always look forward to is the Living Nativity. So the video is pretty similar to what we do, except we don't have the children narrate it. So what we do every year, for as long as I can remember, is we count however many people we have home for Christmas. And growing up, I have 6 siblings, so we've always had quite a few people. So we'll count how many parts there are, and then we'll write the different parts on paper. So like shepherds, angels, Joseph and Mary. Depending on if we need more people, then we'll have like King Herod and an innkeeper and his wife. And we'll just keep on making up parts till we have enough for everybody. And then we put it on paper and tear it up or tear them off from each other and put them in a bowl. And then we get to draw our parts. So this is the fun part because you never know what you're going to get. And once you get to your part, then you get about 20 minutes or so to run around the house and try and come up with your costume. So, and that's the part that gets really interesting. So, I think one of my favorite costumes that one of my sisters did one time, I think she was in junior high or something, and she drew Joseph. And so she wanted to be really creative, so she took some mascara and drew on a mustache. And then she took her hair and with a ponytail put it under her chin like this. And so she was Joseph and tried to look more like a male, so that was pretty fun. So we'll go running around the house. Common items that we use are towels for shepherds, putting it over our heads, or for wise men if we want to try and make a turban or something. My mom's jewelry usually gets raided, and some bathrobes. We usually try and find some stuffed animals to be the sheep that we like kick along as it's our turn to come on the scene. So once we find our costume, then we have a narrator. Usually it's one of my brother-in-laws who like try and cheat and find the narrator so that they don't have to dress up at all and they can just read the story. So once we all have our costume, then we come together and the narrator starts reading the story. And we don't really do any talking. The only part that does talking are the angels, because they say their quick line of glory to God in the highest, and on earth, peace, goodwill towards men. So we all get together, we get ready for our scene, and now I have nieces and nephews. I have about 7 of them, and so now it's really fun to see them doing it too, because they love getting dressed up, and my niece always wants to be the angel and find her crown and put her wings up. And but so then we'll start the story, and once your part comes along, then you come along and you pretend like you're talking, and for whoever you are, and we tell the story. And so when I was asking Nancy exactly what she wanted me to say, she's like, oh, just, say how it progressed of when you were a kid, you liked it, and then you were a teenager, you probably hated having to do it. And really, I've always loved it. I was never one of those teenagers that hated dressing up. I've always loved dressing up. So as long as I can remember, this is a tradition that I've just loved doing. And it's really fun to just get together with everybody and do one activity that we know is coming, and that really just brings our focus back to Christmas. And so I brought along a couple of items to show you an example of what a costume could potentially look like. So just give me a second. All right, well, you might think it just looks like I just came out of the shower, but hold on. You can talk to each other. Or you can watch me, whatever. All right. So my mom has a bathrobe that's like bright red with black fur on the edges, so whenever you get the wise men, you go find that robe. Try and look majestic. So if it were me and I was a wise man, I would find a lot more jewelry than this and try and find a crown and stuff like that too, but here we go. Oh. We would find a way to pin it up and do something like this. So we have lots of fun with our Christmas nativity. I'm probably the one that's the most excited about it from the siblings side, but I'm sure I always will be. So that's my tradition.
Thanks, Megan. I like the running around the house for 20 minutes part. I want to see how that works. Everybody frantically tries to find their stuff. So now we will have our youngest little lady who's going to share. She's been very brave today. McKenna will come on up. McKenna.
Hi, I'm McKenna. I am 13 years old, and I have been privileged to come here to the Christmas brunch for about 4 years now. And I love it because it really kicks off my Christmas season. Today, I will be reading The Night Before Christmas and intertwining some of my favorite memories and traditions while reading the story. "'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas would soon be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. This reminds me of curling up by the fireplace while drinking hot chocolate and watching some Christmas movies. Some of my family's favorite Christmas movies are Polar Express, A Miracle on 34th Street, and It's a Wonderful Life. And Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there rose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what's the matter. Away to the window, I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below. The new-fallen snow puts me in the field behind our house where we play with my dog and walk and just spend time together in the snow playing together. Another thing I love to do is to play with my brother in the snow, making forts to have snowball fights, snowmen, snow angels, and go sledding is one of the biggest things we love to do. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in the moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles, his courses they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. I often wonder how spectacular the view must be from above, seeing all the decorated homes and the Christmas tree shining bright out of the window. Could you imagine the view? I cherish decorating the tree with my family. I love putting ornaments on one by one and just talking and laughing and listening to Christmas music. And at the end, my dad always puts the angel on the tree, and that's just joyful to me. So up to the housetop the courses they flew, with a sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed in all fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished and with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. This puts me in the mindset of I love saving my money up the whole year and spending it on my family for Christmas, and just wrapping presents after that with my family and watching Christmas movies. And I love giving because Jesus gave his whole life for us, and I think we should give to others and pay him back for that. His eyes how they twinkled, his dimples how merry, his cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His dry little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke had encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him, in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. The anticipation of Santa was always great. We loved, when we were little, to leave cookies for him and bake them with my family, and just know that he was there and seeing the note that he left in the morning when we woke up. He spoke not a word, but went straight to work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside on his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like a down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Most importantly, the Christmas Eve service, I love just gathering together and singing songs the night before Jesus was born, and waking up in the morning, not because it's Santa or gifts, but because Jesus' birthday and celebrating that, and because the reason for the season is Jesus.
Well done. Good job, McKenna. Thank you. The tradition I wanted to share with you real quick, I thought about it and I thought there's lots of things we do in our family that Some are more consistent than others, like we do some years, some others. But the thing we do consistently, without fail, is bake Christmas cookies together. And it's a tradition that's been passed down from, I don't know how far back, but for sure my grandma to my mom to me. And I have with me today, this is an apron that was hand-stitched by my grandma. You should see this. There's tiny little stitches. Hand-stitched by my grandma. My mom is here today. It's her mom. We figured out the other day that this is about 70 years old. And she made two of them, one for my mom and one for one of her sisters. And my mom remembers wearing this little apron and making Christmas cookies with her mom and sisters. And it worked out perfectly that she had two, because when my first children were born, I had two, and they were passed to me, and Heather and Kayla wore these when they would make Christmas cookies when they were just tiny, tiny little girls. I have two of them. I think that Heather and Kayla were two the first year we tried to do Christmas cookies. They were October birthdays, so it would have been two. And I remember very well, it's the roll-out sugar cookies. So make the dough, chill the dough, get out the next day, roll it out, cut it out, bake it, decorate it. So that first year, I remember sitting them at the table with their little Christmas cookies in front of them, and their sprinkles and their icing and the food coloring. And I think I set it all out there and put my two-year-olds at the table and stood back and expected little Picassos, I think. As you can imagine, that's not exactly what happened. But we tried to roll with it, and the next year came along, we did the same thing, and they just had so much fun. It was hard to be annoyed that I had blue trees and pink stars, because they just had so much fun. And then they got a little older, and then they got to be involved in the rolling of the dough process. So this brought on a whole new, group of challenges, because now we had cookies that were this thick, and it took about 20 minutes to bake, maybe. And then we had cookies that were like this and needed to be in the oven for all of about 30 seconds. And that was a whole new, several years of cookie baking that we did. And just about the time they got really good, they were 7, and little brother came along. And Nathan was 1 the first year he got to help make cookies, and that started all those stages all over again. And, so if we had a camouflage Santa here and there and whatever, that's okay. Because what I've come to realize, and, this is only 16 years old. My tradition doesn't go back as far as many in our family. But what I've realized that I love about the tradition of making cookies is what it's taught me as a mom. See, by the time Nathan came along, I kind of had lightened up a lot, Those youngest kids, man, they get all the benefit of, just go with it. We're doing fine. But really what it taught me as a mom is not to expect perfection, because the joy is in the journey. If we've heard it once, we've heard it, 100 times. But that's what I love about the tradition, is that it is fun. And it's okay if the stars are, purple or whatever, because it's just about doing it, and it's fun. And now, my girls are 16, so now we have piping bags, and we have edible beads, and we really get into it. And it's fun because the last several years, we make so many, we couldn't possibly eat them. So the tradition has grown that we package them up and give them to neighbors, and that's our little Christmas gift to our neighbors. So I love that, and we'll pass it along. Right, girls? Don't let the tradition die. All right. So with that being said, we will have, we're going to take probably about 10 minutes now. And if you are participating in the cookie exchange, if you brought cookies to exchange, this is the time to do that. So if you go over to the cookie exchange table, and it's just, if you brought a dozen, take a dozen. So you can pick up a plate and collect a dozen cookies. We'll take a few minutes too, just to break, get up and move around a little bit. There's the photo booth in the back that if you want to visit that, you can. And then we'll meet back here in about 10 minutes for our closing. All right, thank you, ladies.
Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to have you. Everybody now. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Irene. Happy birthday to you. Wonderful. With this crew of exceptionally handsome and talented men, it's easy to put stuff together. So we have put together a couple songs that we think you'll really enjoy in renditions that you will enjoy them in. So the first that we are going to do is, are you gentlemen ready? Is Silent Night. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Merry Christmas, everybody.